The knock came just after midnight. Not the kind of polite knock you give when you visit someone. It was urgent, almost violent. I opened the door in my pajamas and saw two cops standing there with serious faces. "You own a black Escalade, sir?" the taller one asked. "Yeah," I replied slowly, the dread already rising up my spine like ice water. "It's been found abandoned on the side of I-87. No driver. The engine's still warm." I didn't need to ask where my wife was. I already knew. 3 hours earlier, I saw it. A notification on my phone. A bank alert. Our joint account had just been emptied. $12,642.39 gone in one transfer to a name I didn't recognize, Travesty. At first, I thought it was fraud. I called Emily. No answer. Texted. Nothing. Called again. Voicemail. I felt it in my gut. That sick, slow-motion feeling like the air got sucked out of the room. I tried the tracking app I'd installed for safety, the one she never knew about. Our car was headed north. Past the city. Into the mountains. I called her again. Still no answer. So I sat. In the dark. On the couch. In silence. My 10-year-old son, Mason, came out rubbing his eyes. He saw the look on my face and didn't ask a thing. Just curled up next to me and whispered, "It's okay, Dad. I took care of it." At the time, I had no clue what he meant. I just held him. 3 days later, she called. Hysterical. Screaming. "Where's the money, Jason?" I let her shout. "Where is it? Travis is going insane. He says I lied to him, that the money was promised at." I hung up. Let me rewind a bit. My wife Emily used to be the kind of woman you write songs about. Blonde, legs for days, that fake laugh that made you feel like the funniest man alive. Everyone wanted her attention, and she soaked it up like sunlight. I thought I was the lucky one. I thought she picked me. But something shifted after her promotion at the marketing firm. She started coming home late, texting more, putting on perfume just to run to Target. Her eyes started glazing over when I talked, like I was a commercial break during her favorite show. And when I'd ask if everything was okay, she'd smirk. "Don't be insecure, Jason. You're acting like a little boy." Then came the coldness in bed, the excuses, the fake headaches. One night, she came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, the cheap, overpowering type. Travis, she'd later admit. He understands me. Understand this. She left me with $20,000 in debt. She took the car, the money, and walked out like I was some hotel she'd overstayed in. But the worst part? She didn't even say goodbye to Mason. Who does that? What kind of mother? And that's when Mason said those words again. "It's okay, Dad. I took care of it." So I asked. He grinned, this little mischievous smirk like I'd never seen before, and handed me her old iPad. Open to an email. Subject: urgent. Final warning before legal action. The email was sent to Emily's account from Travis's lawyer. Turns out, Mason had figured out her passwords months ago. He'd hacked into her email, locked her out, and forwarded the messages to me. Then, for good measure, he messaged Travis from her account. "Found out about the other guy. You can have her. I'm out." Oh, and the bank knows everything. Savage. My son, 10 years old, pulled off a move that belonged in a courtroom drama. And now she was spiraling. She thought Travis would be her golden ticket. But when he realized she didn't have the cash she promised, that she lied about our finances, and probably everything else, he dumped her. Left her stranded. Probably took his car back too. Emily thought she was climbing the ladder. Turns out, she just jumped off the roof. But me? I was done playing nice. Because this wasn't over. 3 days after her meltdown call, I finally tracked her down. A friend of mine, Nate, former Marine turned private investigator, owed me a favor. I gave him the details, Travis, the car, the route, her habits. 24 hours later, he texted me an address to a cheap motel just outside Albany. Room 213. I stood in that parking lot longer than I should have, staring at the flickering neon sign like it had answers. I didn't come to talk. I didn't come to plead. I came to look her in the eyes and see if she'd finally admit it. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, louder. "Emily." Opened the door. Inside, I heard the sound of rushed movement, drawers slamming, something falling to the ground, and then finally, the door cracked open. She looked like hell. Hair messy, mascara smeared, wearing one of my hoodies. "Oh," she said flatly, like I was the inconvenience. "Mind explaining why the hell our son knows more about your mess than I do?" She laughed, actually laughed, and stepped aside like I was some delivery guy she had no time for. "Come in, Jason. Let's do this." I walked in, And it hit me immediately: cologne, whiskey, and that sour afterstench of cheap motel sheets and betrayal. Her suitcase was half open on the bed, stuffed with wrinkled clothes. A bottle of vodka lay tipped over on the nightstand. Empty. There were 2 glasses. I looked at her. She didn't flinch. You ran off with a guy named Travis, left me and Mason with $20,000 in debt, drained the bank account, and now you're hiding out in this dump? Don't be dramatic, she snapped. Travis said he'd handle the debt. That was the deal. Oh, so now you're making deals with strangers behind my back? Great. That's some real marriage material right there. She rolled her eyes and lit a cigarette and sighed. Something she knew I hated. You never got it, Jason. You were boring. Predictable. Same routine every day. Travis? He made me feel alive. Yeah? And where is he now? Her hand froze. Just for a second. Then she shrugged. He'll come back. I laughed bitterly. He's not coming back, Em. You promised him money you didn't have. He's done. You're just now realizing you backed the wrong horse. She glared at me like I'd just slapped her. You think you're better than me? You think sitting in your little office job, wearing the same suit every week, makes you a man? Travis saw potential in me. No, I said slowly. Travis saw an easy target. And so did I. I turned to leave. I didn't want her excuses. I didn't want her pain. I wanted distance from her, her chaos, her lies. But just as I reached the door, she shouted after me. Mason's not as innocent as you think. I stopped. What did you say? She smirked, that cruel smirk she used when she knew she was twisting the knife. Your perfect little boy? He's manipulative. Just like you. Always watching, always quiet. You don't think it's weird how he figured out my passwords? I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to let her poison even him. Don't talk about Mason. You lost the right the moment you walked out. She flicked ashes on the floor and said the last thing I ever expected. Then maybe I should tell you what he sent Travis before he disappeared. My blood ran cold. What did he send? She just smiled and picked up her phone. I guess you'll find out soon enough. I left before I did something I'd regret. I slammed the door behind me so hard the walls shook. I could hear her laughing through it. Mocking. Like she wanted me broken. But something had changed in me. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It wasn't about the money, the car, or even the lies. It was about Mason. And if she'd done something to drag him into her twisted drama, I'd burn every bridge she ever thought she had. 3 days after that motel showdown, a small brown package appeared on my doorstep. No return address. Just my name, written in jagged black marker like someone had done it in a hurry. I stood there for a moment, just staring at it. I knew who sent it. I brought it inside, set it on the kitchen table, and called Mason in from his room. Did you order something? I asked. He shook his head, his messy hair flopping to one side. Nope. But I saw someone drop it off. Tall guy. Beanie. Didn't ring the bell. I opened it slowly. Inside, wrapped in paper towel, was a flash drive. And a note. You should know who she really is before you keep playing the good guy. Don't say I didn't warn you. No signature. No name. I looked at Mason. Go back to your room, buddy. I'll call you for dinner. He nodded, still chewing on a granola bar, and disappeared. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. A folder popped open. Emily, private. Inside were 6 video files, all timestamped over the past 3 months. I clicked on the first one. It was a recording from inside our house. Our living room. She was on the phone, laughing, lounging on the couch with a glass of wine in one hand and wearing my hoodie, the same one she wore in the motel. No, baby, he has no idea. He still thinks I'm just stressed from work. It's too easy, she purred into the phone. I felt my stomach twist. Yeah, I told him we might need to refinance the house. Poor guy's already checking loan options. He's so desperate to make me happy. I almost feel bad. She sipped wine, smiled. Almost. I clicked the next file. This time she was in the kitchen, talking to Travis. The camera angle was higher, like it was from a vent or corner. We'll clean him out, she whispered. Once that bonus clears, I'll move the funds. He won't even see it coming. Travis chuckled, wrapping his arm around her. And then what? He asked. Then we disappear. File after file. Every one of them chipped away at my heart. Not because she cheated. I already knew that. But because of how cold she was about it. Calculated. Like it was just business. I don't know how long I sat there. Eyes locked on the screen. My jaw clenched so hard I felt it in my ears. When I reached the final video, I paused before clicking. This one was titled, The Kid. It showed Mason's room. He was sitting at his little desk, headphones on, working on a laptop. Emily entered, clearly drunk, and started yelling. "You think you're smart? Huh? Snooping through my phone? You don't get to spy on me, you little brat." Mason stood up, calm, brave. I could see the fear in his eyes, but he didn't flinch. "I'm not spying," he said. "I'm protecting Dad." She slapped the table so hard it knocked over his water bottle. "You're just like him. Pathetic. Always watching. Always judging." He didn't move. "Dad still loves you," he said quietly. "Even now." Emily froze. For a moment, her face flickered. Guilt? Shame? But then it twisted into something cruel. "That's his problem." She walked out and slammed the door. I sat there, shaking, hands balled into fists. How long had this been going on? How long had Mason known? How much had he endured, silently watching his mother morph into this stranger? I picked up the flash drive and stared at it like it might catch fire. She thought she was playing a game, but she forgot something. Mason wasn't just my son, he was hers too. And now, he was the one protecting me. I called Nate. "I need everything you can dig up on her. Every account, every message, every place she stayed in the past month." "You got it," he said. "You planning something?" I looked out the window, watching the sunset over a life I no longer recognized. "Oh, yeah," I said. "It's time I stopped playing nice." I knew I couldn't take her down in court, not the normal way. Emily was slippery, manipulative, and 2 steps ahead when it came to lies. But what she wasn't ready for was the one thing she underestimated the most: how much I'd changed. After I watched the last video, something inside me hardened. Not rage, that already came and went. Not sadness, that had been bled dry. No, this was clarity. Ice-cold clarity. The kind you get when there's nothing left to lose. Nate called the next morning. She's staying at a new Airbnb under a fake name. Used a prepaid card. But she's been texting someone using a burner phone. Travis? Nope. Another guy. Name's Dylan. Looks like she moved on again. Of course she did. I had Nate do something bold and perfectly legal. He helped me create a fake investment proposal. Something she wouldn't resist. Big money. Fast. Anonymous. I crafted an email from a fake investor offering her a massive payoff in exchange for helping facilitate a private real estate deal. The kind of too-good-to-be-true offer that Emily couldn't ignore. And it worked. She responded within an hour, already faking a new identity, Sophia Marks. Said she had connections, experience, and could move things discreetly. Disgusting. I told her Sophia had to meet in person. My investor, played by Nate, was only doing face-to-face business. She agreed. We picked the location carefully, a cozy cafe downtown with plenty of security cameras, public foot traffic, and, best of all, a private booth in the back. The day of the meeting, I sat at the far corner of the cafe in a hoodie and cap, watching everything through mirrored sunglasses. Nate was already there, playing the charming investor role like he was born for it. Emily strutted in like she owned the place, new dress, high heels, red lipstick. She smiled like she hadn't abandoned her son, destroyed a family, and stolen from the man who gave her everything. Nate stood, shook her hand, led her to the booth. I watched as she flirted, lied, pitched herself like a brand. Everything she said was being recorded. "I can keep things off the books," she said. "No trail. I've done this before." She wasn't even trying to hide who she really was anymore. That's how untouchable she felt. 10 minutes in, Nate asked her about previous clients. She dropped Travis's name like it was a badge of honor. "He got cold feet," she shrugged. "But I'm used to cleaning up messes." She laughed like she hadn't set fire to everything around her. And that's when I stood up. I walked toward them slowly. Emily spotted me about 3 steps away. Her face cracked, just for a second. Then, she smirked. "Well, look who decided to grow a pair." "Funny," I said, sliding into the booth beside Nate. "I could say the same about you. Except it's not guts, it's delusion." Nate pulled out a small recorder and placed it gently on the table. Emily froze. "What is this?" "Insurance," I said calmly. "For every lie. Every scam. Every time you used our son like a pawn." Her face turned pale. "You set me up?" "No, Emily," I said. "You set yourself up. I just held the mirror." She tried to grab the recorder. Nate's hand landed over it first. "Don't," he said quietly. People were starting to notice. Emily stood up, red-faced, trembling. "You think you can humiliate me? You have no idea what I've been through. What I sacrificed." I stood just inches from her. "No. You have no idea what we went through." "Me." Mason, you walked out on your own son and tried to bury me in debt for a man who didn't even stick around. And now you're playing international fixer for scraps? You're not a queen, Emily. You're just a gambler who ran out of chips. She stormed out, eyes wide with panic. But she didn't get far. 2 men from the cafe, off-duty cops Nate had called in advance, followed her out. She wasn't being arrested. Not yet. But now we had leverage. And I wasn't going to waste it. The moment Emily stormed out of that cafe, everything shifted. She knew I had her cornered. And that made her dangerous. The next morning, I got an email from her lawyer. One sentence. My client is seeking full custody of Mason. I laughed. Out loud. Alone in the kitchen. She hadn't seen our son in weeks. Hadn't called. Hadn't sent a text or even asked if he needed anything. But now she wanted custody? Of the same boy she screamed at in his bedroom and left behind like yesterday's trash? But it wasn't about love. It was about control. Leverage. Image. She needed something to hold over me. So I lawyered up too. A woman named Sandra, sharp as a scalpel and twice as precise. She didn't smile much, and she didn't sugarcoat. She's not after Mason, Sandra said after reviewing everything. She's after your peace. Your sanity. The court won't hand full custody to a woman with her record, but it'll get messy before it gets clear. And it did. She came to the first hearing dressed like some Pinterest version of motherhood. Soft cardigan. Light makeup. Sad eyes. The victim. She cried when the judge asked why she hadn't seen Mason. I was scared, she said. He's been manipulated against me. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet. The judge looked unimpressed. Then came her boldest move. She handed over a letter. Said it was written by Mason. I read it in the hallway during recess. My stomach dropped. It was written in shaky handwriting, full of phrases like, I don't feel safe with Dad, and Mom always protected me. My fist clenched so tight my knuckles cracked. This wasn't Mason's voice. It wasn't even his writing. I showed it to Sandra. He didn't write this, I said. She forged it. I believe you, she said. But the court needs proof. That night, I sat with Mason in his room. He was building a Lego ship, calm-focused. But when I brought up the letter, his shoulders tensed. She said you made me write it, he said. Did you? No, he said quickly. She wrote it. She made me copy it once, a long time ago. But I didn't want to. She yelled. I cried. She said if I loved her, I'd do it. His eyes brimmed with tears he was trying to hide. She's not the same anymore, Dad. I hugged him tight, the kind of hug that says I'm still here. I always will be. We took the letter to a handwriting analyst. I even dug up old homework assignments, birthday cards, anything Mason had written. The results came back 2 days before the next hearing. The letter was a forgery. Sandra filed it immediately. The judge was not amused. Miss Collins, he said, turning to Emily with fire in his tone, this court will not tolerate fabricated evidence, especially when it involves a child. Emily looked stunned, but not ashamed. She looked angry, like Mason had betrayed her. The custody decision came quickly after that. I got full legal and physical custody. Emily was granted supervised visitation, pending a psychological evaluation. As we left the courtroom, she followed behind me, heels clicking like a warning shot. You think you've won, Jason, she hissed. This isn't over. I turned around, calm. No, Emily. You lost. You lost the one thing that ever mattered. She looked past me, at Mason. He was holding my hand, looking at her like she was a stranger. And maybe now, finally, he saw what I had tried not to. That sometimes, the person you love is the very one who burns the house down. A week after the custody hearing, things were finally quiet. Too quiet. Mason was sleeping better. He'd stopped checking the front door every night like he used to. We even laughed again. Real laughs, not the forced kind you fake for your kid's sake. For the first time in months, it felt like the storm had passed. But then, late one night, Nate called. You sitting down? Do I need to be? He chuckled. Remember how I told you I had someone checking her financials? Yeah. Well, turns out she's been a busy little liar. He sent over a document, a full report on a hidden bank account Emily had under the name E. Marks. Same alias she used in the fake investor deal we baited her with. The account had been active for over 6 months, and it had nearly $48,000 in it. I blinked at the screen. Where the hell did she get 48 grand? That's the best part, Nate said. She didn't earn it. She collected it. He sent over a list of deposits. The first few names were unfamiliar. Small amounts. A couple hundred here, a few thousand there. All men. Some of them from out of state. Then the amounts started climbing. and the names started repeating. And one name, one in particular, showed up more than any other. Dylan G. I knew that name. She had been texting him from the Airbnb. I thought he was just another fling, another Travis. But Dylan wasn't a fling. He was a mark. She was running cons, fake consulting gigs, emotional manipulation, even a phony medical emergency story. In one email, she told Dylan she needed $10,000 for an urgent surgery Mason supposedly needed. I almost smashed my laptop. She used my son's name for money. Disgust doesn't even begin to describe what I felt. The worst part? Dylan believed her. His messages were attached to the wire transfers. Long, heartfelt paragraphs filled with concern and love. He thought he was saving a sick child, helping a struggling mother. She scanned him like it was nothing. I called Nate. Can you track this guy down? I already did, he said. He's in Virginia. Mid-30s. Software engineer. Divorced. Apparently met Emily on some private dating app. I didn't even need to guess which photo she used. Probably the one from our anniversary trip, the one where she wore that white sundress and pretended life was perfect. I need to talk to him, I said. You sure that's a good idea? I'm not going to hurt him, I replied. He deserves the truth. 3 days later, I stood in front of Dylan's modest apartment building. My heart thudded with every step up the stairs. I didn't know how he'd react. All I had was a flash drive, Nate's report, and a sinking feeling that I was about to ruin someone's illusion, just like mine had been ruined. He opened the door cautiously. Can I help you? You don't know me, I said. But I think you know Emily Collins. His face paled instantly. We sat in his living room for 2 hours. I showed him the evidence. The emails. The account. The lies. He didn't speak for the first 20 minutes. When he did, it was a whisper. She told me your son was dying. I know. She said you abandoned them. I didn't. Tears welled up in his eyes. Not for her, for himself. For the shame of believing her. For every dollar he'd sent in blind faith. Thank you, he finally said, for telling me. As I left, he handed me something, a printed message Emily had sent just days before we met at the cafe. Once I get full custody, I'll be set. His kid is the ticket. He'll fold. She was using Mason as a pawn in a long con. Even now, this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was warfare. The plan was simple. Take the flash drive, the forged letter, the bank records, and the messages to the authorities. Let the law handle it. Let justice do what it was designed to do. But Emily never played by the rules. And she sure as hell wasn't going to let me win cleanly. I called Sandra and Nate into my kitchen. We went over everything, how we'd present it, which department would take the fraud angle, and how to push for full legal consequences, not just family court sanctions. Sandra wanted to go slow. Nate wanted to hit hard. Me? I just wanted it to be over. But that night, just as I was preparing everything into a neat folder to deliver to the DA's office in the morning, Nate's phone buzzed. He looked at it. His expression changed. Don't freak out, he said slowly. But Emily just checked into a medical center in New Jersey under emergency psych hold. I blinked. What? She showed up in a hospital parking lot, screaming about being followed. Said her ex-husband and multiple lovers were trying to kill her. Security thought she was high. She wasn't. Clean talk screen. She's faking. That's what I thought too. But get this, before she got there, someone tried to break into her Airbnb. Lock was smashed. No sign of her inside. They think she ran straight from there to the hospital barefoot. That shut me up. This wasn't her playbook. This was fear. Real fear. I called the hospital. They wouldn't let me speak to her. Said she was on a 72-hour hold under observation. No visitors, no exceptions. I told them I was her husband. They corrected me, ex-husband on paper. No contact on file. Fine. I didn't need to talk to her. But I needed answers. So Nate and I drove to the Airbnb. It was trashed. The front door was hanging off its hinges. The place smelled like cheap perfume and panic. On the floor, a broken wine glass, a smashed burner phone, and oddly, a man's watch. Expensive. Leather band. Monogrammed initials, TD. Travis Davis. He was back. But why? Nate moved fast, scanning the scene like he was back on deployment. This wasn't a robbery. Nothing's missing except her laptop and one bag. She was running, I said. From him. And he wasn't finished. We checked the surveillance cameras from a local corner store. One had a direct view of the Airbnb street. 2 hours before her hospital visit, a black Camaro pulled up to the curb. Out stepped Travis, same slick back hair, designer jacket, sunglasses at night. He stood outside for 15 minutes. Then he pounded on the door, kicked it in, and went inside. 7 minutes later, Emily burst out barefoot, sprinting down the sidewalk like hell was chasing her. He followed, but stopped at the edge of the street. He didn't run after her. He just watched. Then he turned around and calmly drove off. We rewound the footage. Watched it again. Same thing. Same cold expression. Same refusal to chase. What the hell is this? I muttered. Nate zoomed in on the license plate. This guy's got problems. I thought he left her months ago. Maybe he did. But clearly, unfinished business. Back at my house, I found something else in my mailbox. No return address. Just a white envelope. Inside was a photo. It was Emily, asleep in a bed I didn't recognize. Alone. Peaceful. Vulnerable. On the back of the photo, one sentence. You think she's the only one who lied? No signature. No name. The picture wasn't a threat. It was a message. A whisper in the dark. Something darker was happening beneath all of this. Something beyond Emily's petty cons. And now, I wasn't sure who the real villain was. I didn't sleep that night. The photo haunted me. Not because of what it showed, but because of what it suggested. That Emily wasn't just a liar. That maybe she wasn't even the one pulling all the strings. That someone else had been watching, waiting, orchestrating. The next morning, I dropped Mason off at school like nothing had changed. I smiled, gave him a packed lunch, told him I'd be there at 3:30. But as he walked away, my heart felt heavier than ever. Because I knew what I was about to do could change everything. I called Nate. I need to find Travis. Today. I already did, he said. He's staying at a private apartment downtown. Leased under a shell company he set up 3 years ago. I paused. You think he's dangerous? I think he's worse, Nate said. I think he's smart. 2 hours later, I was standing outside an upscale apartment complex, buzzed in by a front desk guy Nate had already talked to. Unit 1204. Top floor. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. And then, the door opened. Travis stood there with the same smug face he wore in every surveillance clip. But his eyes were bloodshot. Something about him looked off. Like he was unraveling. Jason, he said with a twisted smile. I was wondering when you'd show. I want answers. He opened the door wider. You came all this way. Might as well get comfortable. I stepped inside, ready for a fight. But instead, I found a wall covered in photos. Emily. Me. Mason. Even Nate. Surveillance-style shots. Restaurant exits, parking lots, courtrooms. What the hell is this? This, Travis said, sipping whiskey like it was morning coffee, is the web your wife spun. I just kept track of the threads. She said you disappeared. Oh, I did, he said, chuckling. She ran her little game. Took my money. Lied about everything. But when I found out, I didn't get mad. He stepped closer. I got curious. He showed me a folder. Bank records. Offshore accounts. Transfers. Not just from Dylan or other men, but from me. Money Emily had rerouted through dummy charities, fake expenses, even our mortgage. You were being robbed long before she ran off, he said. I tried to warn her. Told her not to get greedy. But she wanted everything. She always does. I stared at him. Why are you telling me all this now? He walked to the window, looking out over the city like he owned it. Because she used me too. Promised me a life. Promised me we'd disappear together after we bled you dry. But then I found out she was doing the same thing to 3 other men. He turned back. So I played along. Watched. Waited. Then took back what she owed me. You broke into her Airbnb. Damn right I did. She had something of mine. Something I needed. What? Travis's face darkened. My name. She used it on a job in Dubai last year. Big scam. Got flagged internationally. I've been cleaning it up ever since. She's radioactive now. Even the criminals don't want her. I was speechless. She's not just a liar, he said. She's a walking implosion. Then he handed me a flash drive. What's this? Her full ledger. Names. Accounts. Everything she did. You take this to the right people, she won't be able to scam her way out of a parking ticket. I took it, unsure whether to thank him or punch him. As I turned to leave, he stopped me. You want advice, Jason? Not really. He smirked anyway. Don't waste your anger. Turn it into something useful. Me? I built an empire on pain. You? You're still trying to fix something that never loved you. I left without a word. Back home, I sat with that flash drive in my hand. The weight of it. The truth of it. Emily had destroyed our marriage, nearly ruined my finances, and tried to weaponize our son. But now, finally, I had the full picture. And I had a choice. Destroy her completely. Or walk away, knowing she'd already destroyed herself. I looked down the hallway at Mason's room. Heard him laughing softly through the door, playing a game. And I knew. The real victory wasn't revenge. It was protecting him. Keeping our life clean, stable, untouched by her chaos. So I burned the drive. She wasn't worth the fire it would start.